All right, everybody, welcome to today's show. It is Wednesday, May 27th. Thank you for giving us some time to be your, I don't know. How you doing?
Hi, everyone.
So welcome. And I've got more music still playing. I'm still working that bug out. So welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Gerald. Thanks for giving us your time this afternoon to kind of dive into some of your work
My
and
pleasure.
the things that you do. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and just kind of give me a brief background of the work that you do in especially in television. You do a lot of television work, but you've also done feature films in your career.
I started off at Ryerson Polytechnical School, which had a film course back when I was a teenager, and then I just started shooting other people's films, mostly because they had to make a project. So everybody figured out who was liked to shoot films and who didn't, who wanted to just direct. So then I shot a lot of people's films and liked it, and just kept going from there. So a long time ago.
Sure. How did you then make that transition in your professional career to getting involved in so much high profile television work, especially?
I think it's just persistence. You just have to survive the times that you're not working, and you have to just keep your nose down and try and don't give up. I think that's the only way I did it. I think you just have to keep going.
Makes a lot of sense.
And you don't work up. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot busier now than it ever was in television.
Sure.
There was a lot more opportunity to do low-budget features back in the 90s. And then they started to die out, about 10 years ago, because the budgets were either really, really high or really, really low. So I think that's where we're at now in feature world. If you get offered a feature nowadays, it's probably pretty low budget, or it's really totally high budget, and then they get Roger Deakins to shoot it.
Sure.
or someone like them.
Sure, that makes sense.
$250 million and up, they're not going to go for a guy who hasn't shot $200 million shows before. So
right.
I think it's different brackets. But I started off low budget, experimental films, music videos, documentaries. I've shot everything that anybody asked me to shoot. I've tried to do my best. Even 4-camera comedy shows, wax, but a whole other thing.
Right. Well, today I think we're going to talk about, 3 of your last pieces of work. You did the first 5 seasons of the television show Schitt's Creek, which aired here in the United States on Pop TV. I believe it aired on CBC in Canada. It's gaining popularity through Netflix and things like that. You had to jump off for the last season, season 6, to take on a project, the 4th season of Van Helsing, which I believe was on CTV in Canada, and it's been on Netflix and Syfy here in the United States. And then going back a couple of years to the project Wynonna Earp, which is also on Syfy and I believe on CTV in Canada. There's a lot of different networks that are carrying.
There's different venues.
Right.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and jump right into necessarily the first 5 seasons of Schitt's Creek, but talk to me a little bit about how that project came to be, shooting with Eugene, Levy, and Catherine O'Hara. And especially, this is Eugene Levy's project. His son David, who also stars in the show, also co-wrote it with him. And it's a Canadian project. They're from Canada. You're from Canada. I assume that was a big part of it, of getting involved in the project too.
Pretty much, yeah. I think Eugene and Dan had written a pilot, and they had shot a pilot in LA, and then they shopped it around, and they ended up coming to CBC, and then they got approval to shoot it in Toronto.
Gotcha.
But it was right from the start, it was a great project, though. It was Eugene and Dan were always talking about trying to keep it not just like comedy lighting, where it's like really bright and everything's lit. So it kind of evolved from trying to just have it like a 1 foot in reality type show, where like it's a bit of a drama, and it was the comedy, but it wasn't like approached like just a basic comedy. I think they wanted it to have as the seasons went on, they actually added more dramatic beats to it, and it became its own. It came into its own probably in the second, third, fourth season, where they found out what worked and what didn't. And but from my point of view as cinematographer, we just talked about how much we need to light it. The rooms we were shooting in were no windows, so we had to light, and you had to shoot in a car. It was like a box, really. The sets, because there was two tiny, which you couldn't see out because it was a studio out there.
Right.
And so we just had to find the right amount of light, so it wasn't too dramatic and then too serious and not funny, but funny enough that it looks like they could be real people.
Right.
Like real enough that they could be real people, and it could be a drama. But I think it kind of worked on that level, and they just went with the drama part a little more, and just made all the drama funny too, which was even more of the writers and Eugene just finding out what worked and what didn't with all the characters that they created.
Sure. Yeah, because a lot of these sets, I read in an interview that you did with the CSC and a couple other places about the fact that you built a lot of these locations were sets. They were on a stage, and the exteriors were shot in a completely different area. Talk to me about, you had mentioned I believe it was an article in the CSC magazine. I'm gonna keep messing that up. In a location that you had built on a stage. You're not on location. It's a set that you've built, and then you have to match the exterior for that same scene. But you're going to go on the practical location in, you don't know whether it's going to be sunny or it's going to be cloudy or overcast. How did you back your mind kind of plan for that?
Well, I had to think about that a little bit, but I went with I just tried to pretend that we were going to have, there's nothing worse than lighting through two little windows and just making it cloudy out. So I went with, let's hope that it's sunny. I just went with it because then I could at least light the interiors with some sunlight or specular highlights coming in. So I really just decided that I'm going to go for sunlight coming in the house or the different sets. And then when I get to the location, hopefully it's sunny. And if it's not, I can maybe put up a 5K or a 10K just to add a little backlight or something to make it look like it might be sunny.
Sure.
But I definitely decided not to go cloudy on any of the scenes in case I got there. And then you'd have to shoot every scene twice pretty much. And we definitely weren't going to do that. It's hard enough getting through the day as it was.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about seeing, for this scene. This was one of my favorites from the first season is when they wake up. They're, the premise of this show is that they're a family that was super rich, and they now are down their luck, and they've got to go to this place is called Schitt's Creek, which they somehow own this town because of a joke, and now they're living in the only motel in the town, and there's a water leak, and everything is Just talk to me about when you had to make different changes like this, where trying to find comedy but not trying to you look at the script, what things jump out at you of obviously that
when you read the scripts as best I can, and they're all different ages, and they're all together a lot because it's a ensemble, and try and make the actors look as best as possible, because they do dress up a lot between Dan and Catherine wearing different clothes, and Annie, the daughter. And there was all kinds of, high fashion stuff to do. So that had to look good. But mostly you're just trying to light for the story, the script.
Right.
I mean, it's all down there. I mean, they don't want comedy, but like I said, it's like 1 foot in and a lot of shows were doing the same thing at the same time, where they weren't going for really Curb Your Enthusiasm. Also, it's kind of, but that's basic.
For you, this our audience is a different level. There's people all different levels. Talk to me about the advantages and maybe even some of the disadvantages of choosing to shoot on two cameras for a comedic show like this. How much does it help you?
Well, it was the overs. So, I mean, worked pretty good over the shoulder. And then I would put the other camera. This one's on a tripod, but the last couple on
the show.
No, I didn't operate at all. I had two operators. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, Johnny Kalavec, and Kalen McCall.
I always had to see works
to have them do any lighting through the up. you're doing a low budget for some money. You want to change a light.
I didn't find the image, but there was almost like a doorway dolly where your operator is sitting on the doorway dolly, and it kind of felt like to me I remember it was a shot going past. I wish I could show video, but it was going past the sign revealing the motel, and it was just kind of in that sense of using the tools and the techniques that while still capturing that handheld feel to the shot and pushing it all forward. One thing that really stuck out to me on this show was just how much involvement in the camera movement. It wasn't just for movement, especially as the seasons progressed. How did you start to develop that with them? Was that something right off the very first season, the first couple episodes, or is that starting to get to know everyone, know the actors, and start to feel, and then as the seasons progress, it gets more and more common.
But I think you can't get a lot of movement. Two people talking to two boys in those hotel rooms,
right,
or more. But anyway, once we found what worked the best to get into the scenes that Dan and Eugene didn't want, then I think we didn't have and Kaylin's also very good.
You approached, the plan to light these sets, light these scenes. Everyone using the common case of embracing it.
I always try and keep a little bit of I didn't want anything to go flat. So I mean, the challenge on the show really was not lighting on the far side or whatever side worked best, but I did try to get a little bit of shape on it.
Right.
Because shadows aren't a little bit less, and see what I could get away with, because it could have went darker easily, but I think they found between Dan and Eugene and myself and the timer, Walt at Red Lab, we found quite a happy medium where it was kind of like maybe a drama, but it's definitely a comedy.
Sure.
So I think that's where we sort of wanted to stay.
Of the diner scene. What kind of setup was this like for you, as far as, were you building out layers that were things that were always on, and then you were coming in for things like, for shots like this, or for the shot of the character Bob here of you come in at the last second and you're kind of like boom boom, now they're lit in this space? Or was it very much you've lit the space and then the actors are somewhat free to play in it?
That's exactly what I did. I'd like the space with the stand-ins. I'd like the space to where I wanted it to be, where the sources were, because the windows were unshootable on the outside. Like we had to have drapes and all kinds of stuff between the windows and the wall, so you couldn't see the stage. So we kind of stayed away from that area, and then I would use the sconces, even if it was daytime. I'd try and use the sconces or the sconces off, and try and create I always lit the area so that people could play. Like I didn't want to, because of the comedy, once they start performing or thinking about being funny. So I think once we've been really bad, like a bad shadow or, so yeah, definitely it was set up so that I didn't have to do a lot once we start shooting. And I did do 80% of the light on the stand-ins in a wide shot, knowing that we were going to be moving in closer and closer, and then at the end are nicer.
Now, did that approach change?
But I would definitely.
No, go ahead.
No, I think I stayed pretty much with that the whole time. It was see the blocking. We'd have to figure out the blocking, and then with the directors who were on that show, there was quite a few directors, but the directors and Dan and Eugene and I would watch the blocking, and then together we would all come up with the best way to shoot the operators, Dan, Eugene, me, and the director would have different pitches, and then they would either be taken or not taken, and then we would figure it out together, and then we'd have to shoot. But the blocking was important, and it was a big part. We didn't want it to sort of be the same every time.
Right. So you actually did block light shoot like we're supposed to.
Oh yeah, definitely. And another thing that people might not realize, every line was scripted.
Oh wow.
There was no improvisation unless it was something that one of the actors came up with on the day, and then it would have to be approved by Dan or Eugene to be used. But for the most part, it was taken if it was funnier. As Eugene was about, is it funny or is it funnier? And then then that's it. That's all Eugene wanted to. I mean, he thought he liked everything about the show,
right?
But he was there.
Obviously, there's what I found really interesting and it makes sense hearing that it's scripted, just because knowing both he and Catherine O'Hara they just riff that the way it's shot, it lands on those beats perfectly. And it's like, okay, well, obviously you're going to change the angle, you're going to set things up. And I'm like, I wonder if that was just Eugene just kind of came up with that. But that's kind of wild to think that it was that hit on the nose. It's something that they came up with beforehand, writing all that out to come up with. That's really cool.
Yeah. But Catherine O'Hara came up with her own things all the time.
Really?
She had script, and she would change things and do what she would bring ideas to the table that usually went ahead because they were so good. So I mean, it was I think anybody could have went and talked to Eugene about any of the lines, but Catherine O'Hara definitely was the improvisational one on set, and that she nobody needs to tell her anything either,
right?
About being funny. So she offered her own. I mean, she wrote all those songs that she created. She wrote all those songs herself, the crow bits and all that. She did all that herself, and then brought it to the table and had the read through. I think that's when they got to hear what she had had in store for them. They would hear it in the read through.
That's wild. Yeah, because her character, I say, because her character is I believe she's an actress as well, like a kind of a washed up soap opera actress who is down on her luck and trying to find some semblance in this small town, and becomes a part of the town, city council or town council, I guess you'd say, and stuff like that. And it's a really funny show. It really is. They really were funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's still the sixth season just finished, I think. Showing, right. I don't know if it showed on Pop. Yeah, I think it's over.
I think it did show. It just finished on Pop TV in the United States, but it hasn't made its way to Netflix yet. I think that'll be coming in the next few months. Yeah, and I think that's where it gained its popularity here in the United States, is that so many people hadn't seen it. I know I hadn't seen it because I don't have cable TV. I just I'm streaming all that stuff, and then that's when I reached out to you and was like, this is amazing. This is wild. And what's really cool to me was through the first season through. Was it the second season that you then joined the Canadian Society of Cinematographers after this show as well? What was?
No, I've been in the CSC for 25 years. So they just forgot to put CSC on.
Okay. Because I remember seeing that and being like I was like, wow. I was like, I'm amazed that he finally, I was always in the impression that you had joined at that point, but that's wild. So
no.
Yeah.
I just forgot to. I did get my CSC on game in time.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So I just went through a couple of years like that. I think one time I did put it on and they forgot to put it on, and then another time I forgot to put it on. So
that's fair. It happens.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, that's no big deal.
Right. It happens.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about going into season 4 and what that process was like of just, I'm trying to pull up some different scenes here of just some different shots of, we talked a little bit about that things didn't change that much for you, but did you change at all in how you approach some of the lighting? Because you figure a few years has gone by at this point. There's some new technology. You've done other projects. How did you walk into this sandbox and keep playing?
Just to try to keep things new, we'd use different lights. My gaffer, Lorena Ruddick, who's fantastic, she came up with a lot of, before the S60s came out, we lit the inside of the motel rooms with basically made LED strips, and they were bicolor. We had daylight and tungsten on them, and she built them herself. She built about 30 or 40 of these light boxes with strips in them, and we had those to light the interior after, because usually I would use big lights and soften it down and just cut it up in those rooms, and we had a few movable walls that I could get a light into the other room, and then put up a silk or something and have the light come through and get a nice key light across the room or across the stage area. So I think most of it, I just it changed and evolved just to make it faster, and I picked the things that worked. Like I had to have, like I was saying about not matching what might happen when we get to location 3 months later, because I didn't want to, even if it was on the inside and it was cloudy on the outside, it's a lot easier to time, like in your color timing. It's a lot easier to color something that looks like it's sunny out of a gray day if you're cutting in between the interiors and it's sunny on the inside.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if sometimes you had to, but sometimes I would just put hits on the wall that looked like maybe the light was coming through the window at a certain point, even though it could never have come through there.
What were you using to create those hits on the wall? Like, do we see in this frame here?
Yeah, that's a Lico. That was just a tungsten Lico.
Okay.
And I did have some daylight Licos too. The Joe
Licos?
Anyways, I had a couple of daylight Licos. I had 4 tungsten Licos. The Joe Licos, the Joe Licos. So I had quite a few Licos through the place. I used a lot of 5Ks coming through the front. There was a backdrop that I had to light that also had, I think, 5Ks up in the ceiling, hitting that. But yeah, there's a good example of just a hit on the wall there that looks like it might be coming from that air conditioner window, but it's not.
Right.
So I had to put those up, otherwise it just would have been dead. Like there was I couldn't make it look like it was sunny in there because the windows, if you got to see out, you wouldn't be able to, you'd see the studio.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot of translights. There was just a big one in the front of the building.
Okay.
Now the translights worked fine. It was across the street. Yep. Go ahead.
I was saying, was this a situation too where you're using a translight as well? This would have been in season 4.
Nope, that's actually on location. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on location, and that's the real town that we shot in, and that's where if you look outside there, there's a restaurant on the left we couldn't see, so we never saw over there. Bob's Garage is across the street, and the restaurant is across the kitty corner side street.
Okay.
So that I use a lot of NDs on the window. That's basically was how I did that. I mean, didn't want to have to burn out the windows because we were on location for so short a time.
Right.
I wanted to make as much use of the exteriors as I could to show there was a real town. So that was something I had NDs. I think for this season we had NDs on plastic. So I think they were N9s, and then I would add an N6 or another N9 depending how sunny it was out.
Gotcha.
But it was just a balancing.
I'm going to throw in.
You probably had to do that 100 times.
Yeah, I've been there before, trying to make it. It's funny how well you can make it look, and then sometimes it's just like, God, that looks awful. And that's what, in watching the show, it was kind of the thing of it plays nicely when even people come in and open the door, and you can see in some of the clips that I've shared on the link attached, is that you see like Roland's wife walks in at some point, and it starts to get a little brighter outside, but it passes because a lot of places like that would have maybe had something on the windows already, and a lot of restaurants or a lot of shops or something like that. And so that's why when I'm watching it the first time, I'm like, I want to believe that that's a real location, but at the same time, I'm like, it could be on stage. I'm not sure, it's like, because it looks so consistent throughout the show as well. And, that's one thing that shooting, on a stage, obviously you have that control, you have that consistency, how much did that change for shooting a sequence like that when you're in the Rose Apothecary towards later half of the seasons of the show, where you're going to be that practical location, but you've got all these other scenes to shoot and all this other stuff, and where does that conversation become within the context of how you're going to shoot it and keep that look as consistent as possible? There's a long question.
Well, I think you just have to go into it, and you just have to get into it and try and make it look as realistic as you can. I think that's the only way to put it. You just have to judge on the day whether it's looking real or not, or it looks fake, or if it gels together. But for the most part, I think the exteriors and interiors worked really well, and I don't think it was, it's just basic trying to match your interior and exteriors, right?
Sure. It makes sense. I want to throw in a question that we've got from some people watching. of talking about the focal lengths that you used on the stage work and maybe just in general of, where did you play inside of the focal lengths? Is there a specific thing in comedy for this that you try to shoot wider? Are you shooting longer lens? You're shooting, medium lenses? What comes to your mind when it jumps off the script?
In the middle. Yeah. In the middle. Yeah, it was all in the middle. It was all 32, 50, 75, 100 for real close-ups across the room, but the locations were so small that I think we would probably be between 100 and 35. Mm-hmm. We'd go wide for some wide shots. We'd go 18, but for the most part, it played right in the middle where there's no distortion either side. Like there's nothing getting too there's nothing too wide that's distorting, and there's nothing too long that's getting rid of the background that you don't want to see, or because you really want to feel them inside their environment. So we really just, I think, kept in the middle end of their lenses. 32 is probably our most used lens. 25, 32.
And was that
I like the 29 now, though.
Yeah.
Was that 29's a beautiful lens.
Was that a part of picking the Cooke S4s?
Yeah.
Just given the focal lengths that are available.
I've changed a couple times now. I've been using the Leicas. They're all like the same size mm-hmm. and same weight all the way up to I think 75. Mm-hmm. So I like those lenses the best now. They're smaller and a lot easier to handhold.
Sure.
And they're nice. They got a nice soft feel to them.
Mm-hmm. Now, where did you
have to diffuse it or anything? It's just got a nice bite to it without being
right. Now, where did you play? I say, where did you play inside of this? Is the sense of were you shooting wide open on these, or were you shooting a little more stop down, even in the interiors, to keep that? You're obviously on a wider lens, but to keep it so you're not super shallow in your depth of field.
Yeah, I tried to keep it around between 2 and 2.8 the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes if I found that I was doing a group shot, I would have to close it down a bit just so that everybody was in focus if they're as prevalent in the frame or on the same plane. So I would try and keep it around 2.8, so you can. It's a little easier for pulling focus too. I didn't want to have everything wide open or mm-hmm. Just make it the backgrounds die out and stuff. I think it's better to feel like you can see the room across the way. And you can feel like they're in those environments. I don't think you have to, have shallow depth of field all the time just because it looks better. But
right,
because everybody knows, everybody loves the way that looks.
Sure, of course. But
I think sometimes you have to get more depth of field so you can make it work with all the different ensemble of actors. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have somebody that's only a foot or something behind somebody to be out of focus if they're involved in the drama.
Right. So
I was pretty aware of that. I'd go up to 4 or 5, 6 sometimes if I had to, if it was a group shot. Mm-hmm. But most when you got the your 25 or 32, mm-hmm. you need to have something like a 2 or a 2.8.
Right. Talk to me a little bit about what it was like.
But that's.
Go ahead. As I talk to me a little bit about. Talk to me a little bit about what it was like to get nominated for this show. You received a nomination through the Academy up in Canada, and then you won for best photography in a comedy series. And talk to me about what that was like. And was this?
Yeah, that was great.
Talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh, it was great. No, it was really great to be nominated first of all, and then to win was a real shock. I was totally blown away. But yeah, it's great to win an award for a great show. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And Eugene and Dan were great, so they were really supportive and put my name in for the award. So that's I have to thank them for even just putting it out there.
Well, that's really cool.
Which was nice.
I didn't know that's how it got to that point. That's really nice. I think you have to show a little bit in moving into. You jumped off of Schitt's Creek to jump onto season 4 of another show. That's a little bit different. It's getting kind of back into that darker drama area of thing.
Yes, that was great.
Talk to me about Van Helsing and that project. Syfy here in the United States, CTV over in Canada, and how that project came to be and how you got involved.
I just got a call from the producer, Mike Frislev, who's at Nomadic Pictures, and I knew him from Ryerson days, and he's a really successful producer out in Alberta. He's done all kinds of shows, but they're Nomadic Films, and now he's in Vancouver, and they were doing Van Helsing, and they were on their third season, I think, and then in between seasons, I got a call from Mike and said asked if I wanted to come out to Vancouver. So I jumped on that, and it was a great time and a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And I got to work with new people. It was it's kind of hard going to another province and working with a whole new crew, and everybody either did it the year before or didn't do it yet. So that was difficult, getting to know all 60, 70 people in a week before you start shooting. Right. But it was great. Everybody was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And what's that process like for you coming onto something that already has somewhat of an established look to a show versus you came in on the ground floor of a show like Schitt's Creek, where you're able to kind of develop that process with everyone and then continue that on? What mm-hmm. were you coming into it? Were they saying, we want to change the look of the show, or was it continuing on from previous seasons? And what was your approach in that?
Basically, they had what they did. The producers, and this had a new showrunner this year. So the new showrunner was, had his own ideas about how the show was going to progress in the fourth season. And basically, I think it came down to the producers and the showrunner wanted to have more. They wanted more handheld. They wanted more action because there is a lot of fighting in the show, and the style for the first 3 seasons, I think, was more. What's the word? It wasn't as handheld. It wasn't as action oriented. Mm-hmm. As far as compared to the 4th season. I think it was more stylized, and I think that it looked great, and it was fine. But I just think the new showrunner wanted to change things up and make it more immediate. And I think the stunt guys wanted to have more coverage in their fighting. So I think all that just culminated in the end of being looking like it does now. Mm-hmm. And I tried some things that I always wanted to try with fight scenes that I'd done before that worked. And I also tried some different things, different shutters. And I had a great operator on that show. And he had some interesting ideas about how to move the camera, and he could do anything with it. And Robin Lindola, his name was Robin Lindola.
What was your approach on?
He was based in Vancouver, Robin, okay. And he's a great.
Yep. I was going to say, what was your approach of working with him? And
my approach for working
with your camera operator, and especially in those fight sequences.
I think it was just. I think there was 2 cameras. There was A and B camera, so a lot of times we'd double up on getting stuff shot. So sometimes we'd start a fight scene and then we would leave Martin Haas behind to finish it up, because fight scenes can take hours out of your day. So we had to do some shuffling here and there. So we'd leave one camera behind to clean up some of the small bits after we got the acting done, and then we would come back and start another scene with both cameras after he came back. But for the most part, it was a real collaboration with everybody on that show, because everybody knew what we were trying to do, and there wasn't. I think in a lot of, it's not as huge a budget as some shows, mm-hmm. but it actually they're saying it punches above its weight as far as the production value that we got on it, mm-hmm. and for the amount of time we spent on it, because we would shoot 10 pages a day, sometimes 7 pages, tons of action, tons of effects, but somehow we always got it done in 12, 13 hours. And I think the results were good.
Yeah, that's a great looking show. And it definitely, it's been interesting to see a little bit of the transgression between all the seasons, and especially what you talked about now. Talk to me a little bit about how you find that balance within creating mood and creating tone in a show like this and mixing it in with the action and the high energy and things like that, and while still being nimble and being fast. You're shooting 10 pages a day, but it doesn't look like you had to shoot 10 pages a day from the look. That, it never appears that occasions, how did those things, what was the process that allowed you to maximize everything?
All those things. I think you just have to be fast, and you can't take too long to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, otherwise it's going to wreck your last scene, or you won't get through it. So I think you just have to spend the right amount of time on the scenes to get the look that you want. And I think for the most part, I don't think there was anything that, some scenes probably could have had a little bit more coverage if we had more time. But for the most part, I think the directors were really working hard, and they were really prepared. And then we just made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin was awesome for keeping things going, because he's just a powerhouse, and he can handhold all day and just keep going. He's awesome.
That's great. What was the camera package on this show? What was it something that you were able to bring in and change, or was it something that
camera package? Two. Did we have? Oh yeah, we had one Alexa and one Mini. I don't think we had two minis at that. I had Summilux Leica lenses, because we were using the Ronin a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I had in between taking the lens off. I don't know if you've used the Ronin a lot, but if you are switching lenses a lot, if it's going from a really heavy one to a lighter one, you've got a little more time to adjust. Whereas we were literally putting on lenses and being ready in a few seconds with the Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
And that really made a difference.
Now,
I think up to 75, they're all about the same weight and the same size.
Right. Now, I use the Ronin quite a bit, especially in commercial work, and I use it mostly like a hothead, and just the sense of I can have it. It can get a quick shot here. It can go on a jib, that kind of stuff. How do you like to use it? How is working with the gimbal technology on a show like this come into play for you?
Well, we had a crane on set all the time, which was what's it called? It belonged to Dean, the key grip. He had I think it was a 27-foot aero crane, mm-hmm. So it just was remote head. So we had the Ronin on that a lot, and then we would just take it off there. Robin had a whole system down, so he could just pop it off the Ronin, off the crane, mm-hmm. and then pop it onto his handheld unit, and he would be Ronin hand holding the Ronin just not even 5 minutes after taking it off the crane.
Right.
So that became a real workhorse. We use the crane every day for at least the wide shots, or at least to get up off the ground, and because this scene here was in a studio. That scene that you just showed.
Let me go back to that.
And it was supposed to be clearing in the woods. So we'd start in the woods, and they end up in this place here. But this was all on the stage. Mm-hmm. So it was worked out pretty good.
Well, what kind of challenges does it bring?
But the Ronin, I think, is a great piece.
Sure. I say, what kind of challenges does it bring to shoot something like this?
If you have Ronin or the
I was going to say
the show.
I was going to say, what kind in a location like this, what kind of challenges from both camera and from lighting of shooting an exterior scene like this on a stage? What kind of challenges do you face in that space?
Just matching again. It's the same thing. You're just trying to match, like you're trying to remember where you put your key, or you wrote it down, or you have it listed somewhere in your notes, and you remember where you had the key on the exterior. You might be doing the interior a week later or whatever, or 2 weeks later. It's just so you have those notes. And then after that, I think you can pretty much, once you remember where your key was, you can find it pretty fast, and it'll all fit together once you start keeping the continuity of the lighting.
Is there anything?
And the actors also in this show were awesome. So,
is there anything that you use on set that's kind of become your workflow of? Well,
on that show, I didn't have a DIT or a colorist on set, so I would just get my LUT that I worked out with the lab, and then we went from there. I just had my monitors, and I didn't have any way of changing anything except on the, I had 2 or 3 LUTs. I didn't have too many, and I just went from there. It's a lot easier though to keeping track of stuff when you have somebody on set that's can find a scene and show you what you did a month ago on a show.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a great did on DMT on 100, which I just finished,
mm-hmm.
and that was that made it a lot easier to keep track of things that were going to be needed to keep track of months later, effects, and because we were jumping around a lot. So it was great to have Jay Rego doing that for me as
mm-hmm.
DMT.
That's great.
Out in Vancouver. So I think you have to keep track of it. I mean, I always rely on my eye for everything. So, I mean, all these changes that film's gone through and that video's gone through, I think you still have to trust your eye, and that's going to be your saving grace. If you can see it with your eye, then you have something that's consistent. I think you can get fooled by technology a lot, and you can adjust things a lot, but I think you've really got to start with everything, whether it's film or video. You have to start with your eye and find what you like and what, contrast ratios, amount of light, color of light, and then from there you can get technical. But I think you have to use your eye, because there's nothing faster and there's nothing you have to carry around.
Sure.
When you're on set, you just have to look at it.
Is there ever any involvement?
How do you find that when you're lighting?
You can rely inevitably right now, the technician, she and you're looking at what I was going for and then doing the same thing. Yeah.
It's like the
I'm going to let you I did want to ask you that I'm getting customers working with editors and things like that. Is that ever Creek or any of the shows that you do?
There isn't the cinematographer. I like talking to them about editors are possible, because that's all the story. I mean, it's that whole argument with DP. It's like, you're not going to be able to. So, it's kind of risky without, I know a lot of directors, they'll this is a oneer, and that log, or if they wanted to shorten the cinematographer thing was you. So I think directors that do a lot of television, so that the editor's not going to call up and say, we have to, and I can't go into it. So you know that. Everybody knows that story.
Right.
But I think it's just a matter of getting the coverage. I like editors coming to set. If they take it to heart, timer, visit them after things they like to the you can.
Talk to me about
it was and just had fun doing it. It was a lot of fun, that show.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because the actors and the action was fun too. There was a lot of
about your approach in how you were covering that action for were you shooting multiple cameras, and were you hiding lights and putting things in these?
This particular one was in stage, and I just tried to keep the camera and be lit so you can walk from a wide into a closer shot. And so keeping the lights out of the frame is pretty important on those action shows, because you want to be able to move the camera around, and you want to be able to lights practical. And if I did have working film lights, I would try and keep them just out of shot.
Mm-hmm.
I would hang them or put them around corners, and then I would have practical lights inside the room so I could get away with seeing the ceiling, say, or sealing the floor
the right way without screwing this room here. He's getting hung up by the ceiling, but just kind of coming through. Were you again kind of using a crane in this sense with using with the room?
On this show, I didn't use the Ronin at all. It was all dolly and handheld and conventional. Mm-hmm. I think the Ronin, the Ronin, I don't think I had it at all on that. I think I started using the Ronin on the 5th season of Schitt's Creek, very minor, and then I didn't rate. We had it on the Ronin every day, which was really great.
Gotcha.
It's a little different than a Steadicam, of course, but
right.
The remote part of it is fantastic.
Right.
Just putting it on the dolly, that's the new norm now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's fuller.
Right. What were some of
the?
How did that interfere, or did that help the show? Was that something that was kind of planned out of why you went to Calgary?
Yeah, I think they like the wintertime look there. There was that, there's a huge farm there that has a lot of those. The Van Helsing, a backlot on a thing ever since Lonesome Dove. Could be wrong, but they did they've done a lot of shows there. The Fargo series, I think, looked fantastic there, and we got
Oh my gosh.
It was it was all great. It made it. You were running through the snow. It was pretty great. I liked it.
Now, talk to me a little bit about the production design in a sequence or in a show like this, where the show has all these different little elements of what was that process working with your production designer? Because I'm just by what's going on in the background there. Was that something that you guys kind of planned out together? Was it things that you talked about? How did you build out some of these work?
The designer on Van Helsing was fantastic. She had all kinds of ideas about color, texture, and she would bring it to the table, and she would talk to me about light and color, and we would collaborate on it and come up with what we came up with color-wise. She was really fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just fun to see what they put together. I mean, this one, I think this is some kind of barn. I think we had to, yeah, this is a barn, so there's lots of slats in the walls, so just use that to bring some light through. We had to smoke it up on that one. We had the whole building covered with plastic to keep the smoke in, because it would just be dissipated too fast. But it was pretty challenging, but a real collaboration. The production designer and yeah, the directors were great.
And was this the kind of show on Wynonna Earp where, like, I really loved this frame here of just the mixed tones and the temperature and the texture that you've got. Is this something, because you had mentioned on Van Helsing running in with a LUT and working in that space and not necessarily having a DIT on the show with you, was this something that, did you work with this with your DIT on set on this show, or were you pushing this and pulling this later in post in your color timing?
This was also this was no this was just LUTs that I had. I built a few LUTs at the beginning of the show, and that was it. I didn't have a DMT on this one either.
Gotcha. Very cool.
So I liked. I mean, it's more like try and find the nice nice combination.
Now, do you storyboard these shows out with your director and with the team before this, or is it, I've talked to different people and everybody has a different approach. Some people walk in and they're like, I want to feel the moment, I want to feel the scene. But how do you like to work in a show, especially a show like this with so much action into it?
To be broken down and there's a lot of parts to it. Then they would storyboard it, and you just have it there as a hire a storyboard artist and at least get all the beats that they know they'll need to have on this scene. So I think I wouldn't be involved in getting and the director would have it by the station, and then we could look at it and go, we still need this shot, we need that shot, and usually the directors are crossing them off. So I would say it's a director's format, because it's and editors too. I don't know if the editors chirp in there too, but I'm not sure if they are a part of it.
Right.
I just usually see them when they show up on set or at the production meeting, and it's usually on a sequence where they have to get all the pieces,
right,
or the pieces that they would love to get.
Let's move into. I want to talk to you.
So I think it's I think it's different on every show.
I want to move into kind of our last topic of conversation about your process. What has been something that has worked for you, as you found over the years of, from taking notes to how do you scout, and what are some of the things that you do? What can you share with the people? What has been kind of your plethora of the tools that you like to use?
Like, you see it in your realization is script. It's just script is there to make, and then you've got to be, but you get your ideas across. But I think pre-visualization, you just have to contrast your light how you want to see it. I don't think you can rely too much on technology, because in the end you've got to see it through your eyes. Reading a lot helps. reading a lot of scripts and start seeing how the blocking is going to start to happen. Like if you can see, I mean, the blocking's kind of written a lot of times on a scene, but it's not in stone, right? I mean, sometimes it doesn't work, and where they stand and who's, it's, you've got to use your, just things that have worked for you in the past, basically.
Sure. What are some of the tools that you like to use when you're working in your scouting process? Like, what are you using? What are you using to get yourself prepared for a show?
Well, you're just read the scripts a lot, and when you go to locations, you're trying to remember that scene and see how many people are in it, where they're coming from, where the light is, where the sun is, all those things that are going to affect you on the day. And you just have to be prepared for anything when the day isn't how you would like it to be. You just got to have some tricks that you pull out and have the equipment there that you can actually fix. So that's really all the things you have to find out on the scout to make sure that you're not going to have too many surprises when you get there on location to shoot it.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. What's one of the
it's common sense.
Yeah. What's one of the ways that you get into approaching comedy that maybe has become your own or something? Not necessarily become your own, but become a process that you've seen that's worked really well with being able to allow yourself to capture what's needed, where you're not getting hung up on certain things. And then in contrast to that, from a dramatic standpoint, is there anything different in your approach versus comedy versus drama? Or is it kind of the same at this point?
I think they're the same at this point. I mean, it's how you approach the scene. When it could be a great shot, all that stuff matters. But in the end, it's like you're just there to make sure it looks great as you can make it. And like you're collaborating with the director and the showrunner because it's their baby. So, I mean, the directors are coming in like they're mostly just doing one episode or two episodes, but they're coming in prepped and they have their ideas about how the show should happen. So I think just a director starts and you just finish with one the day before. So it's really great if you can manage to meet the director beforehand, just one-on-one, and just have a sit down and talk about their approach to how you want to do it so that you can collaborate on that before you get to set in terms of like what they like to do and what they want to see. They want to start off with a big wide shot and then go directly into coverage, or do they want to? It's just little things that some directors or DPs might prefer and the actors would appreciate. And I think you just go from there. And because if you don't have somebody on your side. Like sometimes, like what I found, the directors don't sit at the monitors all the time because there's too much, there might be too many people there, or they like to be more on set with the actors really close, so they don't want to run back and forth to the dead tent. It might be, a 5-second walk or a 10 or a 5-minute walk. It could be like just too much. So you've got to make a connection with your director. I think that's the important thing for a DP. You've got to, help them get what they want, and they've got to help you get what you want so that you can get it done in time. So I think that's, it's a team. It's teamwork.
Of course. I was going to ask you that it seems like for some of the different shows, different projects, you've had some long relationships, some long-lasting relationships that have been around for maybe all the way back to being at university. I assumed just because you had mentioned some stuff about Ryerson at that point of working with a producer from Ryerson. I think this plays into the idea of you talking about building a relationship with your director on set, but how important it is to build those relationships throughout your career. How has that been a big part of your success for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think everybody's different. I mean, I'm not as out there on the internet and so I think it's good to build relationships for sure, but they change all the time. And that's what I was going to say about from my career. It's like it's as much about survival as it is about getting a break or, having a career. It's like even people that have had great careers, it's about survival. It's things change all the time. You might be the fashion or the flavor of the month 1 month, and then you might have to go out and reinvent yourself. Especially in commercials, I guess. I didn't get into commercials very much, but I know it was like that for music videos, and it's just keeping yourself current, I guess. Be up on all the latest gear and the latest things to make things go quicker or cooler, or any shot that is made that's even cooler than one you did before.
Right.
But I think you have to keep all that stuff in line with you're still trying to tell a story that you're hired for to help visually tell the story. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody that wants to get into film nowadays, I think it's just you have to have a tough skin. Like you can't get hurt if somebody says they didn't like your lighting, or if they don't want you to do a certain thing that way. It's like you just got to be. I mean, you could fight for your ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you just have to keep in mind all these new technologies and everything, and still tell the story and be consistent with that approach when you're doing drama, I think. Mm-hmm. And comedy is more scripted, I think, but and not necessarily either. That's there's other comedians that don't want to script everything.
Right. Right.
A lot of it's improv. So, but I mean, I'm just repeating myself, going in circles here.
No, it's all great. This is all great. Share with me. I'd love to hear how. You don't have to be specific, but has there been a moment in your career where there's been some challenges that you've had to fight through to overcome that has only made you stronger? Obviously, I think everybody has faced this, but I think it's always great to hear people who are doing things at a high level, mm-hmm. to hear that, like, oh, there was this one time and this is how I got through it, and this is how years later it ultimately served me in a much better way. Is there something like that that's kind of you've carried along with you as it's almost become a trophy to carry on at this point?
No, I think more that happens just when you get a really tough day and you actually got really good stuff in the amount of time that you had to work. That's reward right there. That's the reward you get at the end of the day, that you left knowing that you got some good shots and the good scenes, and you did it in time, and you didn't go over budget. I mean, unless you're on a bigger show, but even on bigger shows now, they don't want to do more than 14-hour days, and so I think those. I'm not sure. I don't know what other shows do, except the ones I've been working on lately. They haven't been like more than once in a while a 15-hour day, but for the most part they're all 13-hour days, 12 hours plus lunch, or in Vancouver it's half an hour lunch, so
gotcha.
So 11 and a half hours.
Gotcha. What's the I want to leave we'll
but I think for students yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
Okay. No, I think just for the thick skin part of it, it's like it's some people get lucky and they'll get a job and it'll lead to the next job, and then other times you might get a job and then the show gets canceled and then all of a sudden you're not working. So I think it's just having a thick skin, not giving up, and surviving, because in order to survive, you have to be there and you have to be ready if you get another chance. So I think survival is the key word, I'd say, for a career in film nowadays. Mm-hmm. Unless you have like a super great connection and you fall into a super great job and it goes for 10 years and then, you know what I mean? Like it's not easy for everybody.
Right.
It's hard for everybody in film.
Right.
I mean, even people that have great success. I mean, I'll bet you Roger Deakins doesn't even get calls up like all the time. Sometimes he probably doesn't even have a call coming in.
Actually, and they think, well, I don't think we could get him. And that can become a problem in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's always a weird middle ground that you're trying.
Or you might not be able to. Yeah.
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 What's the last? I'm going to give you the last word in the show.
I think
I was going to give you the last word in the show of what you can. What do you want to leave this audience with these people that they can take home with them to improve their skills? Especially, we're all home right now. We got time.
Yeah. Well, I think like the pre-visualization, I think, is the most important thing for a filmmaker. And I think that's something you can work on. Just read a book and try and see it in your head. I think I learned that from Mark Onderchuk, this director from Hungary who came to Canada and was a teacher at Ryerson. And he said that same thing. That's where I heard it. That if you can't pre-visualize something, it's going to be really hard to light it because you haven't got an idea in your head to get to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of it when you get to the set is having the reality of the place that you're looking and then go back in your head to what you pre-visualize that scene and then see if there's any similarities that you can work with. Maybe the windows are on the wrong side, so you're going to have to change it over. Maybe there's no way you can put lights up on the ceiling. Maybe there's no grid on the ceiling. So all the pre-visualization helps because at least you can come there with something. Whereas if you come into it with like nothing, it's a lot harder because then you're going to get all these things that they're going to be roadblocks. And I think you need that pre-visualized idea that you had to start somewhere. Like it'll keep you grounded when you're looking on set and everybody's talking about where the scene's going to happen, how you're going to block it, but you've already got an idea. So you could just change your idea as other people start to bring in their ideas, but at least you're not coming there like blind, mm-hmm. basically. If you go there and you're just like everybody else, you're just blind, but it's your job to sort of bring a visual style or a sense to that scene. So you've got something if they ask you, what do you think? It's like, I think she should come in that door. Well, why? Well, it's because you pre-visualized it and you realized that the whole scene will play now with a nice side light in the windows. Whereas if you didn't change that and they brought her in from the other side, the other actor from the other side, all of a sudden you've got flat lighting for the whole scene. And then because you didn't bring that in at the beginning, you're like, oh shit, now I'm in trouble. Because you didn't, bring your idea and test it with the new ideas coming in with the director and the showrunner or actors, whoever is at the blocking. Mm-hmm. Because it has to feel right for everybody. It's a moment where if that's the real, when you're blocking, I think that is the moment where your ideas can come out freely and nobody's afraid to hear stuff. It's like, unless you're working with a director who's 100% sure this is how we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's fine too. It's just a matter of, then you got to sort of go, yeah, but what if we kind of had her come in that door instead? Because the lighting's going to be a lot nicer on her.
Right.
So I think that's where pre-visualization is kind of your insurance, because it'll give you some confidence where if you don't have, you're kind of just guessing. And it's something you can drop at the drop of a hat. If somebody has their idea, you can go, okay, that's better. Let's move on. Let's get lit.
I like that.
So I'd say that's my. I didn't know that's what I was going to say. But pre-visualization is important, anyways, for anybody who wants to write, direct, DP, edit, everything. I think it just helps your brain work in that way, mm-hmm. and it's you'll never regret having that.
Sure. Well, I think that's a perfect way to end the show. I think that's some of the best advice I think that we've received at this point on this show for everyone. So Gerald, I really appreciate you taking this time to share your experience and your work with everyone watching. Hope to see the show that you just finished, the 100, very soon.
Oh yeah, the 100 is season 7, episode 2 is showing tonight at 8:00 on the CW network.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Gerald. It was appreciated.
Yeah, so if you want to check that out, it's a good episode.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, well, thank you very much, David. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Take care.
Okay, take care.
All right. Well, before we go, everybody, I'm muted. Say goodbye to Gerald. Before we finish up the show here, we started doing some contests last week, which not a lot of people entered. So the people that did enter, you guys won. We had 2 entries. There were 2 prizes. We had 2 winners. So it's good. Technically, we had 3. So a couple shows ago, we were talking to director Jordan Brady, and Paul Whitcomb was the only one that entered the contest by tagging. Basically, what we had asked was everybody tag the Hurlbut Academy and my Instagram, David C. Weldon Jr., both on Instagram, to tag something that you had learned over the course of this time being at home. And so that prize was getting the advanced commercial directing course from the Hurlbut Academy. That's going to Paul Whitcomb, who's been watching out in the United Kingdom. I don't think Paul's watching right now, though, because usually he's pretty vocal in the chat. So, Paul, I hope you're watching, and maybe you're just, maybe you're watching on your couch or something. So last week's winners, we had the Roscoe Mix Book, which I bought this one. Roscoe did not give this to me. I bought this. This is a cool little device. But I reached out to them. They said they were willing to give away one on the show. And Manuel Ray Garcia, it's going to you, buddy. Thanks for entering the contest. And then we had a piece of Hurlbut Academy content, which I don't have in front of me of what the content was, but I'll make sure that I work it out with Shane and Lydia Hurlbut. But Nickel, I totally I'm going to botch your name. I'm sorry, man. Nikolai Farm, Famkolkar. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm terrible with names. But you are the winner from last week's show. So this week we have a new contest, and here's how it's going to work. The contest is going to be, you have to post something that you've been working on during this time where we've all been at home and we've all been trying to educate ourselves. Whether you're working on or where you've learned something, just post something that you can share. And we're going to just kind of, there's no one way it's going to be better or the other. It's just post it to, make sure you post it on Instagram and tag it to the Hurlbut Academy and at my Instagram so we both can see it. That way myself and Shane and Lydia and the Hurlbut team, we can all work out who the winners are going to be. We hope we get more than 2 entries. This week we're going to be giving away a piece of Hurlbut Academy content called Recreate